Yeah, and like especially on yourself. Like I'm sure you test a lot of this stuff out on yourself as well.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I let the athletes do
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I call it research and development. I'm like, hey, I need you to try this new move, or we're gonna try this new flow or something like that. And I'm gonna watch you do it. I'm gonna sit back. I'm just gonna research it and then see how you develop it, right? And then we can apply it from there. So sometimes they're the guinea pigs without knowing, but luckily it's never anything that's gonna create any kind of negative outcome. Luckily, it's just kind of seeing
Yeah.
what works and what doesn't work. But yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes on myself, we'll see.
And that's like the important thing. Like the stuff that I do, like coaching FRC stuff, it's just like the only way I can explain stuff is like if I know how it feels. But then
Yeah.
there's like when you coach your athletes, it's like being good at coaching is like learning how to express the same thing you want to get across in like different ways.
Yeah.
So like that's been an interesting thing coming into being a coach and like developing those skills. Like I feel like I'm never gonna know enough, obviously. I feel like any coach will say that, but
Yeah.
it's cool to finally like be able to apply that to different populations.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's kind of like something I always kind of say. I like my little sayings is like you always need to practice the skill so you can apply the skill and then teach the skill, right? So if
mhm.
you don't practice the skill, then how do you expect yourself to be able to apply it? And then after you apply it, how do you expect yourself to teach it if you never practice it yourself, right? So
Yeah.
and I think that goes hands in hands with anything and everything, right? So if you never performed a back squat, then what kind of coach would you be to go then teach somebody how to back squat if you've never back squatted before, right? It's like you're not going to teach somebody how to drive a car if you've never driven a car before.
Yeah.
Um, so you got to make sure you have that kind of level of understanding and then practice it as well, right? Practice what you preach, I guess is what I'm saying.
How long have you been a coach?
Um, well, let's see here. uh, I mean, I like started like actually coaching. I would say I don't know, maybe junior year of college when you kind of like, I think once you kind of start doing your internships and your shadowing objectives and all that kind of stuff, it kind of depends on what they allow you to do. So I probably started when I was like 19 or 20.
Nice.
So for about like 9, 10 years. Now, how long have I actually been like coaching, like getting paid and not not being
Yeah,
an
right?
intern? Probably 7 to 8 years. That's like the big differentiation, right? Like, well, I was practicing coaching as an intern, but then when I started coaching and actually started getting paid for my services, I was like kind of two different games there.
It is. And like for me, I used to shadow in PT because I thought that was going to be my route for the longest
Yeah.
time. And like you literally can't do anything when you shadow as in PT. Like you just sit there and like be awkward. I was. And it's really
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've been a coach a lot less than you, a lot shorter
Well,
time.
I got a couple more years on you biologically as well, so let's not forget that.
Okay, true. I'm very hard on myself. I'm like, I should be here right now and I should know all this stuff. It's like
Yeah.
I'm never gonna be up to my standards, which is a blessing and a curse.
See, and that's kind of funny you bring that up because that's a thought I've been having a lot recently. Is I look at like all these, I guess you said what it would be mentees, people I mentor, right? Mentees,
Hmm.
I think.
Yeah.
And looking at all these like younger coaches who are now like, because I still look at myself as like a young coach, right? I really don't think I'm that old. So like when I go to like the national weightlifting meets and I'm coaching, 9 times out of 10, I'm always like the youngest person there by what seems
Hmm.
almost like 5 to 10 years, right? But and so like on my outlook on myself, I consider myself still a young coach, but here I am 29, almost 30. And I've developed like a good group of coaches like under me that I'm like helping out and teaching. And so in a way, it's like, oh, okay, maybe I actually am getting older, right? Non-biologically.
Yeah, like
But
more experienced. Yeah.
yeah, more experience. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But then it's also exciting because I see all these younger coaches just like, man, I wish I had that kind of like drive and ambition. And maybe I did when I was that age. I think now with like technology, social media, and the ability to communicate is much more streamlined and easier. I think it's easier for younger coaches to get involved and like learn more, right?
Mhm.
Than like maybe back when I was in college. Now, it wasn't that long ago. But I would definitely say knowledge and education is much more accessible these days, especially since everything has kind of gone virtual as well. Like there wasn't like too much of that. I mean, probably even when like you were in college, right? Like you still had to go
Not at
and
all.
travel and show up in person, right? Like now
Yeah.
you can attend all these like huge clinics and symposiums just from your living room, like we're doing now. But it's really exciting to see the amount of younger coaches who really, some of them are like 20, 21, 22, like learning. And I sit there, I'm like, man, if I would have started learning, and not know the things I know now, but if I would have started learning, like really, really focused learning on some stuff that I know now, like back then, I was like, man, these guys and girls are going to be like way ahead of the game of where I was when like I was that age, right? So it's pretty exciting to see like the new crop of coaches kind of coming through, and just that a lot more of them are like more motivated at a younger age to really, really learn about things, right? So that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I am in the same boat as you. I mean, I'm 27. I just turned 27 in September, but I still feel like I wish I had been doing this for much longer than I have been. Like I've only been with
Yeah.
Exos for almost 2 years now, and before that, I was not really a coach. Like I would do some like coaching for like I wouldn't consider it really being a coach. And so I just feel very new at this, and I've definitely learned a lot and grown a lot within the past 2 years. I've definitely seen that, but it makes
Yeah.
me, I don't want to say jealous, but it's like I wish I already knew more. But
Yeah.
and
It
I'm
makes you
trying
almost
to,
like overly ambitious. You're like, oh crud, I gotta learn
it's
everything
so
right now.
exhausting, honestly. And I don't think people talk about this enough as coaches. It's like, obviously, with social media, it's like you compare yourself to all these people who look successful and like look like they have it together. And
Yeah.
there's all this information out there. And it's like, I need to learn all of it right now.
Yeah.
And
That's, oh,
it's
go
so
ahead, Sky.
hard. I was just going to say it can get a little bit much and overwhelming because you can't learn everything all at once. And so it's just going
Yeah.
to take the time. So yeah.
I would agree with that, right? Like if you, like we were kind of talking about with the technology and ease of access to education, right? And information, like, I find myself all the time now, like almost feeling like oversaturated with methods and like protocols. Like nowadays, it seems like, oh, you want to be more explosive. Well, you literally write a book, 10,000 ways to become more explosive, right? And there's still going to be 10,000 other ways to discuss that you can learn about after you get done writing that book. So there's always so much like information. It's almost like overload and oversaturation in a way, to where now we have to, rather than having to be like really, really good at learning and like finding information, now like coaches have to be really, really, really good at like funneling, right, and deciphering
Yeah.
what information is appropriate and what information is correct. And this is actually kind of like I guess you call it like a shower thought I had this morning. I was like sitting there thinking, it's like, man, like if you get on Instagram, right? We'll talk about Instagram or maybe even like Twitter. I don't have a Twitter, so I don't really know, but we'll use Instagram here, right? There are so many people, right? Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, maybe they know stuff, maybe they don't. We don't know, right? We're not the ones to judge here on that. There's so many people that put information out there, and like so many people take it to heart, right? And where they would take it to the grave just because maybe this person has this many followers or this person has a blue check mark next to their name. Oh man, this person looks so good in a mirror and all the photos that they take, right? But the thing is then you look at like the information that presenting, and like to me, I'm really, really big on research and citations, right? So if you present me with an idea or a method, like, okay, like that's really cool, but like, how did you get this? How did you come up with it? Have you applied it? And do you really understand it? And there's all these people posting about so much different information, and there's no kind of citations. There's no kind of like background, or I guess what you would call like a fact check, right? And
Yeah.
there's so many people now almost referencing like social media, like even Instagram and Reddit. And I call it, back in our day, like they'll cite people from Instagram and Reddit the same way we used to try and cite Wikipedia, right? When Wikipedia
Right.
first became the thing, and like we were right there, your teacher's like, no, 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 like Wikipedia doesn't count. That's not a citation, and that's not a credible resource. So it's like, in a way, just with all this more information that you can access, in a way, you have to like become really, really good at deciphering it and funneling it and understanding what's really right and what's really wrong, and then who really knows what they're talking about and who is just kind of talking about some stuff just to be heard. So
Yeah. Or to get the likes
yeah,
or
yeah,
to grow their
yeah,
profile.
yeah, yeah. It's
That,
almost like they can take one movement and be like, use this to do this, and then use this to do this, and they can just kind of like recreate the wheel with one video to get 1,000 different points across, which maybe 90% of them don't really mean anything or really contain any level of substance.
so I think the overarching like consensus of this is to be a skeptic when it comes to what you
Yeah.
consume on the internet, because there is a lot out there, and you got to turn that filter on.
Yeah.
and really sift through all that.
Yeah. Question the information to try and understand it further and better would be like a good way I'd put that. Boom.
Beautiful.